What would you say to those who are just kind of overly critiquing the film at this point? You've worked so hard on it.
Get run across. Hold on. Here. Hold on.
All right.
And Disney decided to hire the most insufferable girl boss narcissist that exists on Earth, who hates Snow White.
I'm a narcissist.
Rachel Zegler is extraordinarily woke, but she's woke in a way that's quite deranged.
If I'm Bob Iger, you know what we're doing? Emergency meeting. We're putting Snow White on hold for 2 years, and guess what?
Smart.
Pay her a couple $1,000,000, go away. We're gonna bring another person to play this role.
But you don't seemingly like your own character, so she comes off as an insufferable, whiny brat.
I truly do believe that. There's something wrong with her. She's disturbed, she's unhappy, and she thinks it's about feminism and the patriarchy and about abortion, but the reality is she's just not stable.
Rachel is literally the star of a Disney movie, and she acts like she's some sort of victim, and that's the sort of mentality that is just poisoning people's minds. Like, she acts like her life is so bad.
No one on the right side of America can stand the star of this movie.
You know the saying, go woke, get broke, and Disney's going to lose money on this movie, and I believe it only made less than $1 million in China.
Rachel Zegler, once the face of Disney's future, is now at the center of its most bizarre and costly PR crisis in recent memory. Cast to reinvent Snow White for a new generation, she was expected to breathe life into a legacy brand. Instead, she disappeared, literally. Her LA condo stood eerily vacant as cameras rolled outside. Paparazzi and press circled like hawks, but there was no trace of the starlet. The only clue? A late-night flight manifest with her name, quietly added and quickly gone. Just like that, Rachel Zegler vanished into the night, leaving behind a $100 million problem and a trail of questions Hollywood still can't answer.
There was an in-depth piece, like a behind-the-scenes piece, talking about how they've been in a full meltdown about this girl for a couple of years now.
That said, our primary purpose is to entertain, and where we can entertain responsibly, obviously we try to do that. We try to have a positive impact on the world, but the first thing we need to do is entertain.
What began as a golden opportunity to modernize a classic turned toxic faster than anyone expected. At first, Rachel embodied excitement. She spoke passionately in interviews, bringing youthful energy to Snow White's revival. But cracks soon appeared. A comment about the original cartoon being scary didn't land well. Then came remarks about the prince's irrelevance, which lit fan forums on fire. The most damaging clip? A sidewalk interview where Rachel insisted, half laughing, that fans would line up for her projects no matter what.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird. Great dude. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood.
TikTok turned it into a meme, set to ominous music, dissected frame by frame. What once felt like charm now read as arrogance. Disney tried everything to contain the fallout. Statements, interviews, red carpet redos, but nothing stuck. Every time they patched one controversy, another exploded. The youthful candor that made Rachel feel authentic was now a liability. She refused to soften her tone, even when producers begged during press tours. A political post dropped just before the premiere sent execs scrambling. One even sent her a personal message urging restraint. It leaked within hours. Disney had created a megaphone they couldn't control, and the damage was just beginning.
Rachel is literally the star of a Disney movie, and she acts like she's some sort of victim, and that's the sort of mentality that is just poisoning people's minds. Like, she acts like her life is so bad.
No one on the right side of America can stand the star of this movie.
You know the saying, go woke, get broke, and Disney's going to lose money on this movie, and I believe it only made less than $1 million in China.
As test screenings rolled in, the numbers told a bleak story. Families felt talked down to. Disney loyalists claimed the film had lost its heart. Bigger visuals, but emptier feelings. Still, executives hoped for a Thanksgiving miracle. Instead, opening weekend brought humiliation. Second place behind a mid-budget, pixelated kids movie. Globally, it flopped. Not even international audiences could save it. Analysts coined a new term, remake fatigue. And this time, the fatigue came with a bill Disney couldn't ignore.
Particularly see people who, look like me or are me playing roles like that. So it was definitely, when it got announced,
White! He wasn't a stalker, by the way.
Thing that was like trending on Twitter for days because all of the people were angry.
Behind the gleaming studio gates, panic set in. Disney had bet heavily on the Snow White remake. Creatively, financially, reputationally, but with headlines framing the film as a disaster and fans actively boycotting merchandise, the damage wasn't just creative, it was quantifiable. Internal projections showed a gaping revenue shortfall, and when the numbers came in, the studio's top brass needed a scapegoat. That's when lawyers turned to a clause buried in Rachel's contract, one that had rarely been enforced and almost never with this level of financial muscle. It required talent to avoid any behavior that could measurably damage the brand. And now analysts had the data to prove that's exactly what happened. Surveys showed sharp declines in intent to purchase and ticket pre-orders in the wake of Rachel's viral interviews. Sentiment trackers revealed plummeting trust in the film's lead. Public backlash had become a real-time economic metric. The damages were calculated meticulously, projected ticket losses, merchandising shrinkage, ad spend wastage, and international market fallout. All roads pointed to one number, $100 million. That wasn't just a price tag, it was a corporate scream for accountability. And so, Disney pulled the legal trigger. On paper, it was breach of contract. In practice, it was a cannonball through the heart of the film's already shaky legacy. The move shocked the industry. Agents panicked. Managers whispered about career assassination. But inside Disney, the tone was colder. This was business. Emotional fallout was someone else's department. Critics now dug deeper, not just into Rachel's behavior, but the film itself. The screenplay replaced classic romance with political ambition. Snow White as a would-be leader might have worked, but not with awkward, preachy dialogue and confused world building. Leaked concept art showed bizarre steampunk forests. The film didn't know what it wanted to be. Disney's top brass retreated to a secluded California campus to rebuild. Out of that came a dramatic shift. Fewer remakes, more original stories, and ironclad social media rules for stars. But for Snow White, it was too late. Just as lawyers prepared to serve Rachel the papers, she slipped out of reach. Again, her sudden absence ignited a digital manhunt. Paparazzi combed her known hangouts. TMZ staked out airports. Nothing, until a blurry surveillance still showed a figure, suitcase in hand, boarding a private jet under the cover of night. Experts zoomed in. Could it be her? The facial match wasn't conclusive, but the timing was perfect. Online sleuths turned flight path data into a national obsession. Reddit threads tracked private charters from LAX. Speculation exploded. Was she fleeing subpoena servers? Hiding with legal advisors overseas? Some claimed she was seen in Dubai. Others argued she'd retreated to a coastal villa in Greece. Meanwhile, rumors churned. Hush money meetings with elite crisis teams in London, offshore bank accounts, silent handshakes with brand repair firms. The media couldn't get enough. But back at home, Disney's quarterly earnings hit like a bomb. A third of their shortfall was linked directly to the Snow White collapse and its associated write-downs. Stocks dipped after hours. Disney's lawsuit now carried double duty, recouping some of that massive loss and signaling to Wall Street that even in chaos, the House of Mouse still had teeth. But not everyone agreed with the tactic. Some insiders whispered that Disney was playing with fire, alienating future talent, painting themselves as ruthless enforcers rather than creators. But by then, the fuse was lit. There was no turning back. Negotiations began in shadows. Neither side wanted more headlines, but both knew the spotlight wasn't going anywhere. Disney's legal department quietly approached Rachel's team with settlement offers. The initial demand, full repayment, lump sum. Rachel's camp balked, not just because of the number, but because of what it implied. Accepting it meant accepting the blame. Instead, they floated alternatives. Payment plans tied to future earnings, structured like a royalty instead of a fine. Disney hesitated. A leak from inside Rachel's team painted the studio as unyielding. Days later, a source close to Disney leaked the opposite story, that Rachel was stalling, refusing any genuine compromise. It became a game of narrative chicken. And all the while, the game movie, the one that beat Snow White opening weekend, soared. It passed $1 billion at the box office. It greenlit sequels, a streaming series, theme park expansions. Disney's own people began muttering what no one wanted to say aloud: we backed the wrong horse. Inside Rachel's Crisis HQ, an alleged Mediterranean hideaway with marble floors and blackout curtains, advisors drew up flowcharts. 3 options: fight the lawsuit head on, frame Disney as corporate bullies punishing a young woman for having opinions, settle quietly with a structured repayment deal and a public apology letter ghostwritten to avoid blame, or disappear entirely, drop off the grid, resurface years later under indie credentials, and rebuild from the ground up. Each scenario had risks. One meant war, one meant surrender, one meant vanishing for half a decade. The stakes weren't just money, they were legacy. Then, just as public interest began to wane, Rachel resurfaced, sort of. A single photo posted to a private, verified account sent shockwaves across entertainment news. It showed her sitting alone at a sun-drenched cafe. No red carpet, no filter-heavy selfie, just a book, a blurred skyline, and one cryptic caption, "Still learning." Fans debated the message. Was it humility, defiance, a PR stunt? Disney's lawyers didn't care about subtext. They saw one thing: proof of life and proof of location. Within hours, court documents were filed petitioning for expanded jurisdiction. If she was in a country that honored digital service, the lawsuit could move forward. But then, another twist. Anonymous sources claimed that both sides had finally reached a tentative agreement, a structured payout over decades. Rachel would contribute to a co-founded charity with Disney, promoting creative responsibility. She could still work, but a chunk of any major future earnings from film, stage, music, even streaming appearances would flow directly back to the studio. The clause wasn't just financial. It included a mutual non-disparagement agreement. Neither side could speak negatively about the other publicly again. Disney could boast about restoring accountability. Rachel could start over, not with a clean slate, but at least with a map. The deal wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't punishment. It was a contract, signed in pixels, shaped by hashtags, born from chaos. A new Hollywood math. Fame minus fallout equals long-term liability. Now, with the dust starting to settle, Hollywood has changed. Studios audit digital footprints before casting. Actors are briefed on contracts like court orders, and a single line echoes through the industry like a warning. Remember the Snow White incident, a billion-dollar gamble unraveled by one performer's unfiltered honesty, or maybe by a studio too afraid to let stories evolve naturally. Either way, the legend is set. And the next time a young star sits down for an interview, you can bet a lawyer's watching, because the fairy tale might be fictional, but the fallout is very real.